Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Diane COF. Programs such as No Child Left Behind have increased the number of state standardized tests that have been given to students throughout the school year. And they are not only judging a student's academic level, but they're also judging how well educators are performing due to students' scores. So my main claim is that state standardized testing as a measure of student preparedness and educator effectiveness has a significant negative effect on the education system. These effects are supported through the fact that standardized testing lowers student learning, lessens educator quality, and misinforms the public on the education level. My first supporting point is that these standardized tests negatively affect student learning. These tests do not fully show a student's ability and education level due to lack of observation and documentation of the student's work. Multiple choice achievement tests do not measure students' ability to perform real learning tasks. And state standardized testing also narrows the curriculum and time provided to the students to master that curriculum. Teachers can begin to teach to the test in order to get their students to focus fully on the information the test will cover. And according to Jasmine Evans of Education.com, former Texas State Senator Ted Lyon found that high school students in Texas spend between 29 and 45 days a year taking tests. In Tennessee, students spend 6 weeks in testing a year, and California students spend 4. These numbers don't even include the weeks and months spent in preparation for these classes, or in test preparation classes and benchmark practice exams. So this takes valuable learning time away from the students, and the teachers must try to fit more information into a shorter amount of time. Testing also disproportionately penalizes minority students because minorities don't have the same resources or time to learn the material as non-minorities. So as Jasmine Evans summarizes from Dr. W. James Popham, an emeritus professor from the Graduate School of Education in UCLA, saying, students draw from 3 sources when taking standardized tests: their natural intellectual ability, the information they learn in schools, and the information they learn outside of the school. For the test to be fair, only information from what they learn in school and their natural ability should be tested, but in some cases that's not, or in some cases that's not how the tests are made. So advantaged children do have more chances of succeeding if their if information from outside of the school is tested. And from Fair Test, an education research organization, they state students from low-income and minority group backgrounds, English language learners, and students with disabilities are more likely to be denied diplomas, retained in grade, placed in the lower track, or unnecessarily put in remedial education programs. They are more likely to receive a dumbed-down curriculum based heavily on rote drill and test practice. So student learning not only affects, but is also affected by educator quality, which leads me to my second point, which is educator quality being based on student standardized test scores negatively affects educator quality. State standardized tests are created so that they're questions that would be answered majority of the time correctly, they would be taken out of the test. But because they are important information, the teachers do go over this more in depth in school. So there's really no way for teachers to be a teacher effectiveness to be determined from student scores because they purposely take those questions out of the tests. And most of the questions from the tests are medium difficulty. Because of the pressure to have good performing students, teachers may even cheat to boost test scores. An example of this comes from Jasmine Evans, who states, the largest cheating scandal in recent history was discovered in Atlanta during the 2012-2013 school year. Over the past decade, students in Atlanta had shown more highly improved test scores than in any other district. But evidence of a wide cheating conspiracy invalidated those scores and left administrators with little idea about how effective instruction had been over those 10 years. In 2013, education research organization Fair Test published a list of confirmed cases of state test score manipulation in 37 states and Washington, D.C. And there also have been cases of school administrators taking those lower scoring students and putting them in special education programs, making sure that they're absent on the test day, or even having them removed from the school completely in order to not have their test influence the school's cumulative scores. And this leads to my last point, that standardized testing misinforms the public on the education level. When educators do teach to the test, the scores rise because the education curriculum is so narrowed that to test preparation that that they don't cover more comprehensive material. And so this gives students an inferior education while giving the misrepresentation that education is improving. And from the National Research Council, when incentives encourage teachers to focus narrowly on the material included on a particular test, scores on the tested portion of the content standards may increase, while understanding of the untested portion of the content standards may stay the same or even decrease. So to the extent feasible, it is important to broaden the range of material included on tests to better reflect the full range of what students are expected to know and be able to do. And it is important to remember that the scores on the tests used with incentives may give an inflated picture of learning with respect to the full range of the content standards. So if the standardized tests continue to be used the way they are, the education will not only not improve, but it will become worse. Thank you.
All right, Diane, I thought that you did a nice job giving us background on the tests and explaining what the proposition was. It was very clearly identified. I thought you also had a good good set of previews, signposting the major points, although it did feel a little bit like you were rushing through them. I think you also need to give us a little bit more on the controversy so we know why this is important. In other words, is money involved in this? Why is this happening? What's the motivation behind this? Is this supposed, how did we get to this situation in the first place, so that we know why it is that this is a dire issue. However, in the body of the speech, I thought you signposted the secondary claims very clearly, although the phrasing on the third one, when you got to it, was a little awkward. I did feel like I understood the point that you were trying to make, and you almost always, on the individual points, you've got a good explanation about what's happening there. I think you do a good job increasing your credibility by consistently citing your evidence. Good examples, lots of expert testimony. You've got a nice illustration with the Atlanta School District there. I thought that worked pretty well. I think you could use some more statistical data. The best statistical data that you had was the average number of school days that were being, where testing was taking place in the states that you cited there. I think you needed to show, for instance, that although progress has been made, it's on the testing things, not necessarily on the general education stuff. I don't know how you measure that. Maybe there's some other test that then would be indicative of that, or some other number that would give us some reflection of that. For instance, more students being underprepared when they get to college, or having difficulty with a particular concept once they are in high school level. I'm not exactly sure how you would measure those sorts of things. The presentation, I think, is fine. I think you're doing a little more reading than you want to do, but your generalizations seem to be pretty well supported. I think, like I said, I think you could use a little bit more statistical data, and most of your examples in your supporting material was good. There is a lot of testimony stuff, and some of it does more explanation than proving the point, but sometimes that's what you need to do with an issue like this. All right, thank you.